In a small New South Wales country town called Crookwell, a group of old soldiers led by a pipe band march in memory of their fallen comrades. The terrible fighting of the New Guinea campaign diminished their numbers, and for these survivors, the Kokoda Trail has left shattering memories. But 3 of these men have decided to confront the past and go back. Norm Rose survived the Middle East campaign and then, as a young corporal, was wounded in action on the Kokoda Trail. Bede Tongs is now a farmer, but during the war he was a captain, and in New Guinea he won a military medal for bravery. Colonel Dink Giles was an army engineer who helped move thousands of troops along the trail. He retired from active service more than a decade ago. Nearly 40 years on, these men will try to retrace their steps and relive their memories along the Kokoda Trail. It's a long way from Crookwell to Tokyo, but here the memories are just as vivid. Major Kengoro Tanaka visits a special shrine built to honour almost 250,000 Japanese who died in New Guinea. And here, even the peaceful art of calligraphy hasn't dimmed the memories of the war for Mr. Shikeo Osaki. He says he thinks about it often. And in the town of Koji, Mr. Osaki meets with 2 other Kokoda veterans to share their own kind of mateship. The Kokoda Story began early in the war. In 1942, the Japanese had swept across the Pacific on a tide of conquest that carried them to the north coast of New Guinea. The strategy was to cut off Australia from her allies to the northwest and also to sever our communications with the Americans. It meant that Australia faced her first major threat of invasion. The Japanese planned to storm Port Moresby in the south via the Kokoda Trail. Stretching for 100 miles across a jagged series of mountain ranges, this narrow track winds down from the village of Kokoda.
Jungle warfare is a new kind of warfare. It tears up textbooks and confounds the experts. It has played and will play a vital part in the Pacific conflict. The Allied nations must master jungle tactics and all that the term implies, if the Japanese are to be torn out of their conquered empire.
The campaign seesawed for 3 months. At one stage, the Japanese drove the Australians back almost to Moresby. But the Japanese were themselves exhausted. The Allies reversed the attack and retook the trail and eventually New Guinea. With these men now in their 60s, there's just a hint of Dad's army about the expedition. When the 3 passed through Port Moresby the best part of half a century ago, they were raring to have a go at the enemy. But today, Bede Tongs and his friends Dink Giles and Norm Rose are quietly determined. With silver hair and not quite the same spring in their step, they face an enormous task, but they're sure their age shall not weary them. As far as they're concerned, the only difference between 1942 and now are the reasons for the journey.
Well, I've such memory of it, and in all fairness to my comrades who were left there, I'd still like to go back and bring back memories to myself, which could be a bit upsetting at times.
Norman, do you think it's going to be a tough trip?
Yeah, I recommend it to anyone training for the Olympics.
This journey will bring back memories of bloody battles, disease, and worse still, starvation. Starvation that would eventually drive desperate men to a gruesome and dehumanizing last resort.
The writing's on the wall. Tonight's the night for Great British Mysteries. On 7/2 from 7:30, check into the hospital that's filled with cover-ups and scandals. The Royal. Then Everybody holds the clues, but nobody can solve a mystery like McCallum.
We're looking for a murderer.
And it's the new night for Detective Wycliffe.
You be careful now.